It was August 1998, a desolate Texas roadside. Someone made a grim discovery there, a discovery that chills you to the bone. Something truly terrible had happened in that lonely spot. The body was unidentified at first, but it was clear this was no ordinary death. This was a story waiting to unfold, a story of trust brutally betrayed. The fierce Texas sun beat down relentlessly on the scene, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could match the coldness of the truth that was about to emerge. That quiet place held a very dark, very disturbing secret. Who was this man, found discarded like so much trash? His name was Musso, but everyone called him Buddy. He was 59 years old when he died. Not an old man, not really, but life had already dealt him a difficult hand. Buddy had a mental disability. This made him childlike in some ways. He was trusting, perhaps far too trusting for his own good. He tended to see the inherent good in people, even when it wasn't there. He originally came from New Jersey, a long way from Texas. He was searching for something more, something better, a fresh start, a new beginning. Buddy Musso dreamed simple dreams. He longed for a life filled with friends who cared. He wanted to feel safe, to be looked after, cherished. More than anything, he craved a sense of family, a place where he truly belonged. He wasn't asking for the moon, was he? Just basic kindness, a little understanding from the world. And for a while he thought he'd finally found that precious chance in far-off Texas. It came in the form of a promise, a sweet whisper carried on letters from afar, a promise that ultimately lured him hundreds of miles from everything he knew. The name on that tempting invitation was Susan Basso. She lived in a place called Jacintoport, Texas. She knew Buddy, or at least she knew enough about him to see an opportunity. She began writing him letters. These weren't just ordinary letters. They were filled with sweet words, painted with promises of a brighter future. "Come live with us," she urged. "We'll take such good care of you here." Buddy, with his trusting heart, believed every single word. He carefully packed his few belongings, and then, full of hope and anticipation, he made the long journey to Texas. So, Buddy arrived in Texas, a stranger in a strange land. He moved into the house on K.O. Steel Road with Susan Basso. But it wasn't just Susan. Her son, James O'Malley, was there too, and others. In total, there were 5 of them living there, plus Buddy. At first, maybe things seemed okay, or at least tolerable. It was a new place with new faces all around him. Buddy probably tried his very best to be agreeable. He just wanted to fit in, to be accepted. He desperately wanted them to like him. But any semblance of a welcome didn't last long. The smiles soon faded. Very quickly, Buddy's dream of a Texan paradise began to curdle. It soured into a living nightmare. Susan Basso took control of everything in Buddy's life. His money, every cent of it, went to her. She controlled his medication, doling it out or withholding it as she pleased. She controlled his freedom, his ability to move, to speak. He wasn't allowed to call his family back in New Jersey. He was completely cut off, trapped. The abuse started subtly at first, cruel, cutting words, an unexpected shove here and there. Then, it escalated. It got much, much worse. He was utterly isolated, with no one to turn to for help. That house on K.O. Steel Road became Buddy's prison. It transformed into a horrifying place of systematic torture. They beat him mercilessly. They used baseball bats as weapons. They kicked him with steel-toed boots again and again. They burned his skin with lit cigarettes, leaving painful, searing marks. They forced him to drink caustic cleaning fluids, things like pine sol, even bleach. They made him perform humiliating, demeaning acts, stripping him of his dignity. The cruelty was relentless, unending. It was purely sadistic. Buddy endured unimaginable physical and mental pain, day after agonizing day. His gentle spirit was slowly, painfully breaking under the strain. But why? Why would anyone inflict such unimaginable cruelty on another human being, especially on someone as vulnerable as Buddy Musso? The answer, when it came, was shockingly simple, and utterly chilling. It was all about greed. Cold, hard cash. Susan Basso, it turned out, had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on Buddy, a very big one designed to pay out upon his death. She was also systematically collecting his Social Security disability checks, month after month. To Susan Basso and her circle, Buddy Musso wasn't a person with feelings or hopes. He was merely a financial instrument, a piggy bank she intended to exploit and then break. And that's exactly what she did. Buddy Musso's battered body was finally found on that desolate roadside on August 26, 1998. He had been unceremoniously dumped there, left for dead. His body was a testament to unimaginable suffering. It was bruised. It was broken. It was covered from head to toe in cuts, contusions, and horrific burns. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy knew immediately. This wasn't some tragic accident. This was murder. A prolonged, brutal, agonizing murder. The kind of killing that speaks volumes, either of a deep, twisted hatred or a chillingly cold calculation by the perpetrators. The police investigation began right away. Who could possibly do something like this? Detectives started digging, asking questions around the community. They managed to trace Buddy Musso back to Susan Basso's house on K.O. Steel Road. It wasn't particularly difficult. Some neighbors had seen things that made them uneasy. They had heard things too. Sounds of a man being mistreated, cries of pain. The investigators started to look very closely at Susan Basso. They scrutinized her story, her alibis, and they looked at her son, James O'Malley, her daughter, Hope Basso, Hope's husband, Craig Aarons, and even Bernice Aarons, who was Craig's mother. It became clear this wasn't the act of one person, but a whole group. The evidence against them began to pile up, piece by damning piece. Inside Susan Basso's house, forensic teams found traces of Buddy's blood. His suffering was literally etched into the walls and floors. They discovered the instruments of his torture, belts used for whipping, a stun gun, a wire brush, likely used to inflict terrible pain, items that told a silent, horrifying story of his final weeks and months. They also found the life insurance policy, the one Susan had taken out on Buddy. The motive was now crystal clear. It was all there, laid bare. The disparate pieces of a truly horrifying puzzle, a puzzle that depicted calculated cruelty and insatiable greed. Then the confessions started to come, not from Susan Basso, not right away. She tried to play the innocent victim, feigning ignorance, but the others involved, they began to crack under the pressure of the investigation. Her son, James O'Malley, started talking. Craig Aarons, Hope's husband, also began to reveal what he knew. They couldn't hold the terrible secrets in any longer. They described in detail what had happened to Buddy. The constant beatings, the systematic torture. They recounted the horrific events of the day Buddy finally succumbed to his injuries. Their chilling stories painted a gruesome, undeniable picture. A picture of Susan Basso as the clear ringleader, the evil architect of Buddy Musso's prolonged suffering and eventual death. The trial that followed was a grim, somber affair. The graphic details of Buddy Musso's prolonged torment shocked everyone in the courtroom. It shocked the entire community. The prosecution meticulously laid out their case against Susan Basso and her accomplices. They detailed the horrific abuse Buddy had endured. They clearly established the financial motive. They painted a picture of a callous, almost inhuman disregard for human life. What was Susan Basso's defense? She claimed she wasn't even present for some of the abuse. She desperately tried to shift the blame onto the others involved, but the weight of the evidence against her was simply overwhelming. Her control over the household and Buddy was absolute. Justice, in the end, was served, at least in the eyes of the law. Susan Basso was found guilty by the jury, guilty of capital murder, the most serious charge. For her central role in Buddy's horrific death, the jury sentenced her to death. Her son, James O'Malley, received a sentence of life in prison. Craig Aarons also received a life sentence. Hope Basso, Susan's daughter, was sentenced to 20 years behind bars. Bernice Aarons, Craig's mother, received a 15-year sentence. They would all pay a price for what they did to Buddy Musso. The legal system worked, but it felt like a hollow victory. It couldn't bring Buddy back. On February 5, 2014, many years after Buddy's death, Susan Basso faced her own end. She was executed by lethal injection in Texas. She was 59 years old at the time of her execution, exactly the same age Buddy Musso was when his life was so cruelly stolen from him. For some, her death represented true justice. For others, it was just another sad, violent ending to an already terrible story. Susan Basso became the 14th woman to be executed in the United States since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976. Her death closed a dark chapter, but the horrifying book of Buddy's suffering remained. Buddy Musso's tragic story serves as a heartbreaking, enduring reminder. It's a reminder of just how vulnerable some individuals in our society are, and conversely, how incredibly cruel and predatory other people can be. Buddy Musso moved all the way to Texas searching for a better, kinder life. He was hoping for acceptance and care. Instead, he found an unimaginable nightmare, orchestrated by those he trusted. His gentle nature and childlike trust were betrayed in the most horrific way possible. We remember Buddy. We remember his innocent hope, and we can only hope that his story, as painful as it is, helps to protect other vulnerable people like him. It's a profound tragedy that should never, ever be forgotten.